All right, let's try something. What if we stopped thinking about our mental health as just a list of symptoms and started thinking about it like a house, with floors, walls, and a foundation? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful psychoanalytic framework that does exactly that. It gives us a map of our inner world, broken down into 3 basic levels.
And to kick things off, there's this quote from the source material that just hits the nail on the head. There are 2 kinds of people, the bumped and the more bumped. I mean, how perfect is that? It's such a great way to remember that, look, nobody gets through life without a few dings. This whole idea isn't about judging anyone. It's just about understanding that we all carry our dents and scrapes in different ways.
So you know how we usually think about mental health? It's all about checklists and symptoms, right? Well, this framework we're exploring today offers a totally different kind of map. It's a classic psychoanalytic approach that's way less interested in what the problem is and much more focused on the structure of the mind itself, like how is it all put together in the first place. And just a quick heads up, the words we're about to use, like neurotic, borderline, psychotic, they come from this specific model, so they might mean something a little different than how you hear them thrown around in everyday life.
Okay, so this is really the key difference right here. A modern diagnosis, it's great at telling you what's wrong. It's like, yep, you've got a leaky roof and some drafty windows. But this psychoanalytic approach, it wants to know why. Why is the roof leaking? Is a house sitting on a shaky foundation? Were the walls just not built right to begin with? You see the difference? It's about getting to the root of the problem, not just slapping a patch on the cracks you can see.
And that brings us right back to this incredibly powerful metaphor from the source material. Your mind is a house. It's a simple idea, but it's profound. Because as we're about to see, some houses just need a bit of sprucing up, some cosmetic work. But others, well, others have problems that run a lot deeper. And this metaphor, this idea of the house, it's really the key to unlocking the 3 levels we're going to walk through.
All right, so let's walk through the front door of the first house. This is what the framework calls the neurotic level of organization. And honestly, this is the most common state. It's that fundamentally solid, pretty well-built house that, frankly, most of us are living in.
Yeah, exactly. At this level, the house is basically in great shape. The source says the problems are really just about renewing the paint surface or other cosmetic repairs. It's not about tearing down walls. It's a place that's comfortable to live in, even if it could use a fresh coat of paint here and there.
And that right there is the big takeaway for this first level. The house is solid, the structure is sound, you feel safe in it, the issues you're dealing with, they're the totally normal bumps and bruises we all get from just living. A scuff mark on the wall here, some peeling paint in a corner there. Sure, you might want to fix them eventually, but it's not a 5-alarm fire. There's even an old therapist joke that goes something like, after you account for the other levels, the rest of us are all neurotic. It's just part of the human condition.
Okay, but not every house is just dealing with peeling paint. When we move to the next level, what's called the borderline level, the problems are suddenly not so cosmetic anymore. Now we're talking about some serious structural repairs.
And you can feel the shift in the metaphor, right? The foundation might be okay, but it's the load-bearing walls that need work. Just stop and think about what that feels like on a psychological level. The very structures that are meant to hold you up, to keep you safe, they feel shaky. All of a sudden, the house isn't a safe or restful place to be, and the repairs become really urgent. And it's important to realize this isn't some super rare thing we're talking about. I mean, the estimates do vary, but this level of structural difficulty is thought to affect a pretty significant chunk of the population, anywhere from about 2 to 15%.
So what does that look like on the inside? Well, it often means an identity that never quite finished forming. It can create this deep feeling of boundarylessness, like a real struggle to know where you end and other people begin. And that, as you can imagine, can lead to some really chaotic relationships and this very intense black or white way of seeing the world. People are either all good or all bad. And the source material is pretty clear that this kind of structure is almost always connected to trauma during development. So yeah, these aren't scuff marks. These repairs are necessary and they really can't be put off.
And that brings us to the third and final level, the deepest, most severe level of difficulty. At what's called the psychotic level, we're not worried about paint anymore. We're not even worried about the load-bearing walls. At this point, the entire foundation of the house is in crisis.
The source puts it in really stark terms. The foundations of the house have been broken, and the whole house is under constant threat of collapse. You can just feel the weight of that. Psychologically, we're talking about something beyond just feeling unsafe. This is about the terrifying risk of the entire structure of the self just disappearing. So the need for help isn't just urgent, it's immediate and absolutely critical.
So what's happening here? Well, it means that the most fundamental building blocks of the self just didn't develop in a typical way.
There's a serious breakdown in the ability to tell what's inside your own head and what's part of the outside world. The unconscious mind, which is usually kept in check, can just flood in, bringing with it things like delusions or hallucinations. That core experience of having a solid I, a stable ego, that can feel like it's shattering or even completely gone.
Okay, so we've just taken this tour of the mind as a house. And you might be sitting there thinking, all right, that's interesting, but why does this actually matter? What's the point of looking at things this way?
Well, it matters for a few huge reasons. First, it helps us understand just how deep a problem really goes. Are we dealing with a paint job, or is the foundation crumbling? It gives people a map, a way to make sense of what can feel like a totally chaotic inner world. But maybe the most important thing is this. It helps us get past the what, the symptoms, and get to the underlying why. And that's where the real, lasting work of healing can actually start.
And of course, the real power of a metaphor like this is that you can use it for yourself. So we want to leave you with this one question to think about. If your mind is a house, what kind of care does it need today? Is it maybe just time for a fresh coat of paint? Or are there some deeper structures that need and deserve your attention? It's a really powerful way to just check in with yourself.